to that while we have him here.
Mr. Chairman, just a minute, just before we start that, I don't have any problem with doing that. But I'd just like to ask some feedback from the chair on when are we going to decide on or develop a plan on how we're going to promote this entire venture to the public. When are we going to decide on how we're going to get input from the public? How we're going to pull it together? How we're going to assess it? I mean, do we need to do that or don't we need to do that, Mr.
Well, I was hoping we'd spend at least the first hour with Mr. Travala. After that, it seems to me that we could start with a public forum as early as our next meeting 2 weeks from now in September. And in terms of presenting what we have to present to the public, most of the contentious issues are the ones that the public will be most interested in. And while we've all said that we're going to try to be open-minded about listening to both sides of each thing, I don't know how much we have to say. As I said, the first part of this is just getting input from the public. I think the second part is after we've had that input, then we can tell the public, okay, these are the issues we've struggled with, and this is where we're going. I don't see any reason why we can't have a public forum component of our meetings from now through May. My experience tells me that generally public forums in Charles County, if they include teachers, law enforcement, fire and rescue, they're very well attended. Not as well attended for everything else. And we can set aside the time and we can have it available to the public, and to the extent the public is there, we can listen to what the public has to say. And then when we've exhausted hearing from the members of the public for that meeting, we can continue with writing.
So let me try to get this straight. So your plan for public input is just to have the public speak during or after our meetings, is that it? I just want to get clear on what we...
Well, I don't know that I have, it's not my plan. I hope that when we talk about it after, I hope when we talk about it today, later this evening, that we can reach a consensus that my suggestion for one in the ballpark will be acceptable to everybody, and that's how we'll move forward. Okay. I know we have 7 tonight instead of 9, but I'm hoping that all 7 of us can.
Okay, I just want to make sure now. So what you're saying, you're going to propose to the group, and we'll give you a consensus on it. Nothing formal, but you simply, the only outreach that we're going to have, the only source of input from the citizens of Charles County we're going to have is an opportunity for them to speak at the end or during one of our meetings. Is that all it's going to be? I mean, if that's it, then
I'm certainly open to other things. I don't know, and I'm open to, I'm not saying that's what occurs to me.
I mean, you get invited to things just like you got invited to the homeowners association.
We're certainly going to do that, but in terms of what other input we're going to get from the public, that's my suggestion in how we proceed as far as meetings, but what other input we're going to get from the public, people are going to come up to us and say things to us, and we're going to come back to the group and we're going to say, this issue was raised to me and so forth. So I'm just suggesting that as a way of proceeding, that's a potential way of proceeding. Okay?
May I add something, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I think, if we need to spend the bulk of our time drafting. It's going to take 20 minutes. It's going to take 2 hours. What we've done in the past, what's worked in the past, is that if people are present and they speak at 9 o'clock or at 8:30, whenever we're done, and we listen. Usually there's 15, 20 minutes when people show up, they want to talk about specific things they've heard, they want to vent. You give them that opportunity to vent. At other times, however, when we're not drafting, then it's useful to go out to the public and go to the Rotary clubs, go to the Chamber of Commerce, talk to those. So there's a drafting exercise, which is primarily your responsibility, and then there's a listening exercise, which is also your responsibility. But from a process standpoint, I know that we can't spend too much of our drafting time, listening to the public. It should be, you can listen some, you should be listening some all the time. Anybody shows up and they want to speak, because it's a public forum. A public forum doesn't mean you have the opportunity to speak unless you give them the right to speak. You want to give them the right to speak. But as we see, we're crowded with people now, so I don't know how much people are going to really show up.
So we're not going to have public hearings as required by the resolution?
Well, first, okay, we'll ask Mr. Travolta to address this, but as far as the resolution goes, we're not, the Maryland Constitution defines what we do and don't do, and the resolution, to the extent it differs from the Maryland Constitution, it's a suggestion. Is that a fair reading?
That's right.
Okay, so if, to the extent that, for instance, the commissioners have a code of civility, no one is going to be removed from this board for violating the code of civility. To the extent that the commissioners had an attendance policy, no one can be removed from the board. This board is a constitutional entity, so the commissioners can make suggestions that we should all attend meetings and we should all be polite, and those are certainly reasonable suggestions. And anything in the resolution is something that we should give weight to,
Okay.
but we're not bound by it.
That's right.
Okay.
And usually public forums